I was set to marry the woman I loved more than anything, and our future together felt like paradise. But in one moment, everything fell apart. I found out she was pregnant by my best friend, and my own sister knew about it. Everyone was lying straight to my face, and my life turned into a nightmare. My name's Jason Wilson, and I'm 32 years old. I live in the suburbs of Seattle, Washington, in Bellevue, where the streets are lined with greenery and the air smells like freshly cut grass in the mornings. I own a small chain of bakeries called Wilson's Hearth, which I started from a tiny spot downtown, right on the corner of Pike Street. My business is my pride, built from sleepless nights, 16-hour workdays, and a belief that hard work pays off. I didn't come from money. My dad, Richard, worked his whole life as a mechanic in an auto shop, and my mom, Ellen, was a librarian at the local school. Everything I have, a 3-bedroom house I bought 3 years ago for $450,000, a used Toyota RAV4, and a reputation as a guy you can count on. I earned myself. My life was steady, almost perfect. The bakeries were bringing in about $120,000 a year, enough to dream about the future. A wife, kids, trips to Europe, maybe a little beach house someday. I always wanted a family, a cozy home where Sundays smell like fresh bread and laughter fills the living room. I thought I'd found that with Emily, my fiancée. Her smile, her voice, her dreams for the future felt like an extension of my own. But I had no idea that behind my back, a web of lies was being spun, one that would destroy everything I believed in. My story isn't just about betrayal. It's about how I held on when the world I'd built collapsed under the weight of deception. Emily came into my life 2 years ago, at the opening of my 3rd bakery in Kirkland. She was a florist, decorating the place with flowers, peonies, eucalyptus, roses in soft pastel shades, tall, with light brown hair tied in a loose braid, and a smile that made my heart skip a beat. I noticed her right away, as she arranged bouquets on the wooden tables. We got to talking when I offered her a coffee. Her passion for flowers, her knack for seeing beauty in the little things, captivated me. She told me about a time she made a wildflower installation for a wedding, and the guests cried from how stunning it was. I shared how, at 25, I took out a loan for my first bakery, barely slept, terrified I'd fail. We talked all evening, forgetting about the guests. We started dating. Those were the best months of my life. Walks along the Puget Sound waterfront, dinners at my bakeries where I'd bake her chocolate croissants, talks about our future. We'd spend hours dreaming about traveling. She wanted to see the lavender fields in Provence. I wanted to drive down the California coast. A year later, I proposed at sunset on a pier by Lake Washington. I rented a boat, decked it out with fairy lights, and got down on one knee with a $5,000 ring, a diamond set in white gold. She hugged me, crying with joy, and said, yes. We planned the wedding for 6 months later, in an old chapel outside the city, surrounded by pine trees. I was sure I'd found my forever. My family felt like my rock. My younger sister, Caitlin, 4 years younger than me, was always the life of the party. Vibrant, with brown eyes and a laugh that drew people in, she could charm her way out of any mess. She worked as an event planner, organizing weddings and corporate gigs. But her life was chaotic. Credit card debt, fights with boyfriends that I sometimes had to smooth over. My mom, Ellen, adored Caitlin, calling her my little star, forgiving her every slip-up, from showing up late to family dinners to borrowing cash. My dad, Richard, was strict but fair. He was proud of my bakeries, though he'd grumble that $5 buns are highway robbery. He taught me how to fix cars, change tires, and always said, Jason, the most important thing is keeping your word. My best friend, Nathan Clark, had been in my life since we were kids. We played basketball together in high school, shared dreams, had each other's backs. He was my opposite. Tall, with a lazy grin, always the center of attention, with tons of friends and brilliant ideas that rarely panned out. His life was a mess. Debts, odd jobs, one-night stands. I got him a job as a manager at one of my bakeries, despite my partner Chris's doubts about Nathan's reliability. I figured a $60,000 a year salary would give him some stability. I spent evenings teaching him how to deal with suppliers, manage quality control, stressing how crucial it was to check the flour's freshness. He promised not to let me down, clapped me on the shoulder, called me his brother. I trusted him. Man, was I naive. That first year with Emily was perfect. We planned the wedding. She picked out dresses. I taste-tested cakes at the bakery. We talked about renovating my house once she moved in. I sank $20,000 into upgrades: oak hardwood floors, a kitchen with marble countertops, a bathroom with a jetted tub and heated floors. We spent hours picking out tiles, laughing when I spilled paint on my jeans. It was our home, our future. We hosted barbecues with friends, took weekend trips to Oregon, renting a cabin by the ocean. We dreamed of having a kid in a couple of years, baking cookies together on weekends. Everything was on track. But then I took on a new project, opening a fourth bakery in Tacoma. It was a gamble. New market, tough competition, huge costs. I dove in head first, finding a location, meeting with investors, handling licenses. I was up at 5 a.m., home past midnight, exhausted. Emily seemed to get it. She'd bring me coffee at the office, leave notes with little hearts. "Don't forget to eat, my hero." Sometimes she'd stay late with me, helping draft menus, but I didn't notice things starting to unravel. Emily got close with a new co-worker, Sarah, a photographer who shot her flower arrangements for social media. Sarah was the opposite of Emily. Tattoos, bright hair, loved clubs and parties. Soon, Emily was going out with her for girls' nights. She'd come home late, smelling of wine and perfume, with stories about bars in Capitol Hill I'd never heard of. She'd laugh, talking about dancing till dawn, but I was too busy, too tired to pay much attention. I was happy she had a friend, but something about her stories felt off. 4 months ago, as the Tacoma project was wrapping up, I noticed changes. Emily got harder to pin down. Her schedule, always steady, 9 to 5 at the flower studio, suddenly turned erratic. She mentioned last-minute orders, evening client meetings, urgent deliveries. When I asked, she brushed it off. Sarah needed help with a project, or the client was picky, had to stay late. Her answers came quick, but I caught a flicker of unease in her eyes. One day, checking our joint account, I always kept an eye on finances, I spotted something odd. Emily was pulling out $200 in cash every week, something she never did before. I asked why she needed so much cash. She said it was for flowers at the market, but her eyes darted away, her fingers fidgeting with her bracelet. That wasn't like her. I started noticing little things. She stopped leaving her phone on the table, always took it to the bathroom. Her bag, once left open, was now zipped shut. I tried to reconnect, suggested a weekend getaway to Portland to celebrate the bakery launch. She said she couldn't get time off, though she always used to make it work. I offered to cook her favorite shrimp pasta. She canceled last minute, texting that Sarah needed support after a breakup. I trusted her, but something inside me started to ache. I felt her slipping away, but I blamed my exhaustion, pushing the thoughts aside. The doubts grew, creeping into my mind like mold. Emily got obsessed with her phone. She'd text with a faint smile, but when I walked in, the screen went dark, and she'd start talking about the weather or work. I asked who she was texting. "Work group," she'd say, but her voice wavered, her fingers tugging at her hair. One night I saw her shove her phone under the pillow when I came into the bedroom. It was a small thing, but it cut like a knife. Nathan, working at my bakery, changed too. He started showing up to corporate parties he used to skip. Emily would sometimes tag along, saying she wanted to support us. At one party in a Fremont bar, I got stuck talking to a flower supplier. When I came back, Emily and Nathan were in a corner, heads close, whispering and laughing. There was something intimate in how they stood. They pulled apart when they saw me. Nathan started rambling about some client wanting a big order, but his hand lingered on her shoulder. Emily fixed her hair, avoiding my eyes. I brushed it off, but the image of them together stuck in my head like a splinter. Nathan started dropping by our place unannounced. He'd bring Emily little things, her favorite caramel latte from my bakery, a box of macarons from a downtown patisserie, lavender-scented candles she loved. I thanked him, thinking he was just being a good friend, but something about his smile, the way he looked at her, set me on edge. One time he brought her a bouquet of peonies, her favorite flowers, and said he saw them and thought of her. Emily blushed, and I felt a stab of jealousy I quickly buried. This was Nathan, my friend, my brother in spirit. At the bakery, Nathan was suddenly killing it. He smashed sales targets 3 months in a row, landing deals with cafes and restaurants. He started dressing sharper, new shirts, leather boots, fancy watches. My partner Chris smirked one day, saying Nathan looks like he's in love or hit the jackpot. I laughed, thinking he was joking, but the comment stuck. Other employees teased that Nathan was too happy for a manager. I chalked it up to his success, proud that my help was paying off. My sister Caitlin started acting weird too. She'd call Emily directly, bypassing me, which she never used to do. I overheard bits of their talks when Emily had her on speaker. "Yeah, I got it. I'll check the discount." But the calls dragged on too long for just wedding details or deals. One day, I walked into the living room while they were talking. Caitlin said, "Jason's home. Let's talk later," and hung up. Emily smiled, but her hands shook as she put her phone away. Their closeness, their secrets, started to grate on me. Caitlin always loved Emily, but now their bond felt suspicious. 2 months ago, Emily started feeling sick in the mornings. I'd hear her in the bathroom, running the shower to muffle the sound of her throwing up. One morning, I went in to help, holding her hair as she retched. She was pale, with dark circles under her eyes. I suggested it might be pregnancy. Her face twisted in panic, her eyes wide like a cornered animal. She mumbled something about a virus and booked a doctor's appointment, telling me not to come. I tracked her cycle. We were planning for a kid, and knew she was 2 weeks late. I didn't push, thinking she'd tell me when she was ready, but her fear stuck with me. My friend Mark, who works at an event agency, invited me for a beer at a Ballard pub. I mentioned Emily's odd behavior, her morning sickness. He frowned and asked how Nathan was doing at the bakery. I said he was thriving. Mark nodded, but his look was heavy. Later he texted, "Don't want to butt in, but how's Nathan? Heard he's happy, like he won the lottery." It was the first hint, but I didn't catch it. I replied that Nathan was fine, and Mark dropped it. My dad's sister, Aunt Linda, visited my parents a week before everything blew up. I stopped by their place in Redmond, and Emily and Nathan were there, chatting in the backyard, standing too close, laughing and brushing elbows. Their laughter wasn't the kind you share with just friends. It was flirty, intimate. Linda watched them, then looked at me and shook her head. Later I learned she told my dad something's off between them, but my mom brushed it off, calling Linda paranoid. She said Emily and Nathan were just friends, and Linda was seeing things. Chris, my partner, brought up Nathan again. He'd seen him on a Saturday morning in the bakery parking lot, dressed like he was going on a date. Blazer, polished shoes. Nathan got flustered when he saw Chris and left quickly. Chris also overheard Nathan arguing on the phone about money and a problem Caitlin would handle. He heard Emily's name, but not in a works context. The pieces were starting to form a scary picture, but I still refused to believe it. One day, I came home early because an oven broke at the bakery. I heard voices in the living room, Emily laughing, Nathan telling some story. I froze by the door. He was here, uninvited. I walked in, and they went quiet. Emily was on the couch, holding a magazine. Nathan had a coffee mug. They shifted slightly apart. Emily's voice shook as she smiled. "Why are you home so early?" I said the equipment broke. Nathan muttered something about dropping by to discuss an order and left fast. Their reaction, their awkwardness, fueled my suspicions. The doubts became unbearable. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. The logic I prided myself on screamed that something was wrong. I decided to find proof. Checking Emily's email felt like a betrayal, but I was out of options. I didn't want to be the guy who snoops, but months of hints, vague answers, and odd behavior pushed me to the edge. On Thursday, while Emily was at work, I stayed home, saying I had a call with an investor. The house was quiet, but the air felt heavy. I sat at our shared laptop in the study, my heart pounding in my temples. I hesitated, guilt clashing with desperation, but the part of me, fed up with lies, won. I opened the browser, logged into her email with a password she'd mentioned once. In her inbox, I saw a thread with Caitlin. The subject line stopped my breath. "So Jason doesn't find out." The world froze. I clicked, and every word hit like a hammer. The emails went back 3 months. Caitlin and Emily were plotting to hide Emily's affair with Nathan. Early messages were careful. Caitlin asked if Emily was sure, warned her to be discreet so I wouldn't notice. But soon the tone shifted. Caitlin gave tips: when to act busy, what excuses to use, how to meet at her place when my parents were out. One email read, "Mom's at her friend's on Tuesdays. You've got 3 hours. I'll say you're with me if Jason asks." My sister, my own blood, was helping my fiancé cheat on me. She didn't just know. She was an accomplice, planning, covering for them. But the worst was yet to come. The latest emails discussed Emily's pregnancy. She was 2 months along, confirmed by a doctor. They didn't know if it was mine or Nathan's. The timing lined up with our rare nights together and their meetups. Emily wrote in a panic after I mentioned pregnancy. "He's suspicious. What do I do?" Caitlin replied, "Say it's his. Jason would be a better dad than Nathan. He won't know if we're careful." Reading it, I felt my world collapse. This wasn't a mistake, not a fling. It was a calculated conspiracy, cold and cruel, involving the people I trusted most. I took screenshots of every email, saved the thread to a USB drive, printed the most damning ones about the affair, the pregnancy, the lies, and put them in a folder. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. I knew I had to protect myself. I couldn't let them ruin my life and walk away scot-free. The next day, I noticed Emily being even more cautious. She stopped leaving her phone out, even to charge, always kept it on her. One night I found her in the bedroom, whispering on the phone. She jumped when she saw me, quickly saying, "Talk later," and hung up. I asked who it was. She said a client, but her cheeks flushed, her voice tight. I pretended to buy it, but inside I was raging. I caught Caitlin and Emily exchanging looks at family gatherings. At a dinner at my parents', Caitlin slipped Emily something under the table, a small package wrapped in paper. Emily stuffed it in her bag, fast. I acted like I didn't see, but later I found it in our bedroom, prenatal vitamins. It confirmed my fears, but I still didn't know the full truth. My mom started acting strange, too. She was always close with Emily, but now it felt almost conspiratorial. They'd go shopping, whisper, laugh at jokes I didn't get. One day, Mom gave Emily a family heirloom, a pearl necklace meant for my wife. I was shocked, but Mom waved it off. "She's family now." Her tone was sharp, almost defensive. I started wondering if she knew too, but pushed the thought away. My own mother? No way. I dug deeper, checked the browser history on the laptop Emily sometimes used, found searches. how to hide calls, paternity test, early pregnancy, Seattle divorce lawyers. It was a gut punch. She wasn't just lying. She was planning for fallout. I felt cornered, but it only steeled my resolve. Chris told me Nathan was slipping at work, showing up late, disappearing for hours without explanation. An employee saw him in his car with a woman who looked like Emily, but wasn't sure. That was the final straw. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to act. I called Chris, my voice breaking as I told him about the emails, the betrayal. He listened without interrupting and said, "You need a lawyer. Don't tell them anything until you protect your assets." He knew a lawyer, Laura Davis, and connected us. Laura heard my story over the phone, her voice calm and professional. She explained that my house, bought before the engagement, was mine. Same with the business and savings. She told me to secure my finances and gather all evidence. Chris and I went to the bank. I moved $90,000 from our joint account to my personal one, leaving Emily $3,000 so it didn't look like I was cleaning her out. I checked my investments, $150,000 in bakery stock, and confirmed they were safe as premarital assets. I also froze our joint credit cards, leaving Emily a debit card tied to the nearly empty account. It was mechanical, but it gave me control. I felt like an engineer building barricades before an attack. At home, I played normal. That was the hardest part. I'd ask Emily about work, listen to her lies about urgent orders, fussy clients. She'd spin tales about fake meetings with such confidence. I almost admired her acting. One night she said she was late because her car broke down. I knew it was a lie. Her car was in the garage all day. But I nodded, keeping quiet. She noticed Chris's car at our place. Nosy neighbors ratted and asked why he was there. I lied, saying we were discussing the new bakery, though inside I was screaming. Every word I held back burned, but I knew I had to wait. Laura warned that acting too soon could weaken my position. I installed cameras in the living room, dining room, and front entrance. Legal, since it's my house. A tech came while Emily was at work. I said the neighborhood had break-ins, and he nodded. No questions. The cameras gave me peace of mind, knowing I'd catch anything if things got ugly. I also moved key documents, deed, passport, insurance, to a bank-safe deposit box. It was my shield, my backup plan. Mark texted, apologizing for not speaking up sooner. He'd seen Emily and Nathan at a cafe near her studio, not far from the bakery. They were at a window table, hands intertwined, laughing like lovers. He didn't want to meddle, but now felt guilty. His words were the final nail in the coffin of my trust. I thanked him and asked him to keep it quiet. My determination grew stronger. I decided to host a family dinner on Saturday, called my dad, said I had good news, and invited my parents, Caitlin, and Nathan. Dad was surprised. I rarely did big gatherings, but agreed. Emily tensed when she heard Nathan was coming, but nodded, offering to help with dinner. I ordered food from Vito's, an Italian place she and Nathan loved, a small bitter irony. I left the folder with the emails and breakup papers on the living room coffee table. The dining room cameras were on, their red lights barely visible. My parents arrived first, around 6:30. Mom hugged me, but her eyes searched for Emily. She asked where she was, a hint of worry in her voice. I said she was upstairs, getting ready. Dad was calm, but his eyes sparkled with curiosity. Caitlin showed up late, at 6:45, with a forced smile and a Gucci bag I'd helped her buy. She hugged me too tightly, like she sensed the storm coming. Nathan was last, at 7 o'clock, with that smug grin that always bugged me. He slapped my shoulder, called me boss, and strolled into the dining room like he owned the place. Emily came down in the blue dress I'd bought for our anniversary, open-shouldered. She was beautiful, but her nervousness gave her away. She fiddled with her ring, avoided my eyes. Dinner was tense. Mom kept glancing at Emily and Nathan, like she was checking on them. Caitlin barely ate, picking at her lasagna. Nathan yammered about work, but his jokes fell flat. After the main course, Dad raised his glass, expecting my news. He smiled, saying, "So, son, what's the surprise?" A strange calm washed over me. I smiled, handed Emily the folder with the breakup papers, and said they were for ending our engagement. Her face went white. Her fork clattered to the table. The room sank into a heavy silence. Mom gasped, jumping to Emily's defense, insisting I was wrong. I cut her off, handing Dad the second folder with the emails. I said it was Emily and Caitlin's correspondence, plotting her affair with Nathan and discussing her pregnancy. Dad started reading, his face hardening with every line. Nathan jumped up, knocking over his chair, yelling that I had no right to snoop in her email. I said I had every right to know my fiancé was sleeping with my friend and might be carrying his kid. My voice was steady, but inside, I was erupting. Emily sobbed, swearing it was a mistake, that she loved me. Caitlin tried to grab the folder from Dad, but he pushed her away, his hands shaking. He asked if she really helped cover it up. Her tears and excuses, I was protecting the family, only made it worse. Nathan scoffed, saying I brought it on myself, always working, ignoring her. Something in me snapped. I stood, walked over, and punched him in the face. The crunch of his nose felt almost healing. Blood gushed. He fell, knocking over a vase of flowers. Mom screamed, rushing to Nathan, pressing a napkin to his face. Dad stood, his voice like ice. He told Nathan to get out. Nathan, clutching his nose, shouted that I'd regret it and stormed out, slamming the door. Mom tried to follow, but Dad stopped her, saying they needed to talk. Emily begged for forgiveness, clinging to my arm. I said I'd demand a paternity test if she kept the baby, but we were done. I couldn't see the girl I loved in her anymore. I pulled out a $12,000 check, the amount my parents had recently lent Caitlin for her project, which turned out to be another scam. I handed it to Dad, saying I wanted him to get his money back before the family fell apart completely. He looked at me with pain and gratitude, his eyes glossy. He and Mom left, leaving a heavy quiet behind. Emily sat staring at the floor, her face wet with tears. I told her to pack her things and leave by tomorrow. The house was mine, and she didn't belong here anymore. She nodded, stood slowly, and went upstairs. I stayed in the dining room, surrounded by leftover food, a shattered vase, and bloodstains on the floor, feeling a strange relief. The storm had passed. I'd survived. The next few days were a blur. I lived on autopilot, got up, went to the bakery, came back to an empty house. Emily left the next day, taking just a suitcase and her floral albums. She left the ring on the kitchen counter, a small, painful gesture. I stared at it, anger giving way to emptiness. I put it in a drawer and haven't opened it since. Laura filed the papers to end the engagement. In Washington, it was simpler than a divorce, but still took time. Emily moved in with Sarah, not Nathan, which surprised me. I changed the locks the next day, hiring a locksmith for $300. The paternity test was scheduled for a month later, when the pregnancy allowed. Emily agreed without a fight, maybe hoping the kid was mine. But it didn't matter to me anymore. Trust was gone, blown to pieces from within. Chris was my anchor. He'd stop by the bakery, bring beer, listen when I lost it. He told me Nathan got fired a week after the dinner. His tardiness, rudeness to staff, and rumors about his behavior reached the board. Chris filed a complaint without telling me, keeping me out of it. I was grateful. Nathan vanished from the bakery like a ghost, leaving only debts and gossip. Mark called, apologizing for staying quiet. He'd seen Emily and Nathan again a month before the dinner, kissing in a park by the lake, oblivious to passers-by. He wanted to tell me but feared ruining my life. I said he wasn't to blame. The truth would have found me anyway. Dad called almost daily. We talked about Mom, Caitlin, how it all went wrong. He was crushed by their betrayal. He found texts on Mom's phone from Caitlin asking for money to fix a problem. He suspected it involved Nathan, but didn't know details. Our bond grew stronger than ever. We'd meet in his garage, drink coffee, tinker with his old Ford. Those moments kept me grounded. Mom kept texting, a mix of excuses and blame. I didn't mean to hurt you. You were always too busy. Caitlin just messed up. I ignored them. I wasn't ready to forgive, wasn't even ready to talk. Caitlin sent one text. I'm sorry. I didn't think it'd go this far. I deleted it without replying. Their words were hollow, like chaff. The bakeries thrived despite the chaos in my life. I threw myself into work, spending days on budgets, tastings, supplier meetings. Customers raved about a new almond croissant I created during a sleepless night. Work became my lifeline, my way to drown out the pain. 6 months after the dinner, Caitlin called. She sounded cautious, asking about me, the bakeries. I answered curtly, keeping it short. Then she got to the point. Said Nathan and Emily wanted to talk about the baby. I agreed to meet, out of curiosity and wariness. Set it for a downtown cafe, neutral ground. They showed up together, Caitlin and Nathan. Emily wasn't there. Caitlin looked worn out, dark circles under her eyes. Nathan was a mess, thinner, eyes darting, in a wrinkled shirt. They sat across from me, avoiding eye contact. Caitlin spoke first. Said Nathan couldn't care for the kid. He had debts, legal trouble, maybe even an arrest coming. She added that I was stable, and the kid would be better off with me. Nathan nodded, mumbling he needed $30,000 to pay off creditors and start fresh. Their pitch was absurdly cynical. I should take the kid, give it my name, and cover Nathan's debts because family sticks together. Their audacity stunned me. They'd betrayed me, wrecked my life, and now wanted me to carry their burden and pay for their mistakes. I looked at my sister, my friend, and for the first time, felt no pain, just cold clarity. I said the kid was their problem. I wouldn't give a dime. They'd destroyed our family with their own hands, and I wouldn't let them manipulate me again. I stood, dropped $10 for the coffee, and walked out, leaving them stunned. That meeting was the final nail. I'm sharing this story to let go of the weight, to let others know how low the people you trust can sink. My path forward isn't clear. The engagement's over. The kid's not my concern. The house is my sanctuary again. The bakery's my purpose. I lost a lot, but I found myself. And one thing I know, I won't carry their sins. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close? Share your story. Let's support each other.